I've had seasons in my life where the money changed and I had to change with it. And when that happens, everybody wants to talk about make a budget, stop eating out, cut out this expense or that expense. And while that is definitely true, and I do believe there is a whole nother side to living on less because you're not just adjusting to a budget, you're adjusting to a whole new way of living. And that's a lot harder to do than it sounds like. There are all kinds of reasons why you may all of a sudden not have as much income coming in. You may have lost your job. Maybe you got your hours cut at work. Or maybe nothing dramatic at all happened other than the price of everything has went up and the income you have doesn't quite stretch as far. And one of the biggest differences that I've noticed personally is there isn't always enough to make up the difference. Because, see, when you're working and an unexpected thing arises, you can work more hours, ask for, like to work another day or any number of things that can cover that gap for you. But when you're on a fixed income, it's a little more difficult than that. And the sad truth is, things don't stop happening simply because your income decreased. The broken refrigerator, it doesn't care. The stove that's not working does not care that your hours got cut. The car, if you've ever owned a car, well, you already know the car does not care. There will be issues if you own a car. If you know, you know. And Lord knows the house don't care. Things break when they break, period. Is there ever really a good time for something to happen really like that? No. So, part of learning how to live with less income is knowing the margin between I'm good to oh crap. Yeah. And in all seriousness, that can be scary. But I think there's also a little grief involved when you lose some of your income. Like you're grieving what the money that you used to have allowed you to do. Maybe you used to go out more. Maybe you used to travel. Maybe you used to be able to buy something without having to think so hard about is it going to affect my income for the next week or two or month. Maybe you were used to being financially independent and now you have to depend on someone else's income to make it. Or maybe you just simply miss the feeling of knowing that you had enough. That's very real, very valid. And I don't want you to think that the answer is to pretend that it doesn't bother you because sometimes it does. Sometimes you walk through the store and see something you would have bought a few years ago without batting an eye. But now you have to think about it and question, do I really need this or can it wait? That can sting a little bit. But I've also learned that accepting where you are financially is not accepting that you'll be there forever. It means I know exactly what I'm working with right now. Not what I wish I had, not what I will have, what I have right now. I have to make decisions with what I have right now. That's where I think priorities become really, really important. Because when there's less money available, you have to get real specific about what matters. For me, having a safe, comfortable home matters. The bills being paid matters. Having food in the refrigerator matters. Taking care of the things that I'm responsible for matters. Those are my priorities. And then there are the other things that, you can ask yourself, do I really need this? Do I really even want this? Am I going to use this thing? Is this thing going to improve my life? And sometimes the answer is yes. I don't think that adjusting to less of an income means that you never get to enjoy anything. I don't know about you, but I don't want a life where every single dollar I spend has some big guilt attached to it. Like, that is not the goal. It's stability. And sometimes stability means saying no today so that you can say yes tomorrow. It can also mean getting creative, using what you already have, cooking at home, canceling things that you're paying for every month and probably have forgotten about. It's about paying attention to where your money is actually going while still finding ways to enjoy the things that you enjoy. That's the part I think that people miss when they're talking about cutting back on their expenses. You don't necessarily have to cut everything, you just have to pay more attention to what's actually working. Living on less money actually forces you to look at your finances differently. And if you're smart about it, you will start to notice the places where you were just spending out of habit, not necessity. Things that you bought just because you had always bought them. It's because you had always paid for them. Things that you thought you needed because everybody else had them. And let's be honest, when the money gets tighter, you start asking yourself better questions about how to spend it. I think we also have to be very careful about looking at other people's lives in comparison to our own, thinking, well, they're traveling, they're going out, they're having fun. Why can't I do that? But you don't know what their bank account looks like. They could be swimming in debt, and you don't know what they worry about when they lay down to rest either. You only know what your numbers look like. Those are the numbers that you have to build your life around. Comparing your financial situation to somebody else's will have you feeling poor even when your needs are being met. Comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're having to live on less money right now, I don't think your first question should be, how do I continue to live the way I've been living? Sometimes you can't. And sometimes trying to maintain an old lifestyle with a new income is going to cause you more stress than a little bit. Maybe a better question is, how do I build with what I have right now? What has to be paid? What matters to me most? Where am I spending money without even realizing it? And what can I change without completely cheating myself out of everything? Those aren't always easy questions, but they can definitely give you some control back. Your circumstance changed without your permission. That does not mean that every decision going forward is out of your hands. And I want to leave you with this because I think it's important. Living on less doesn't mean you're living a lesser life. Granted, it may look different. You may have to plan differently. You may have to plan more carefully. And you may have to redefine what financial security looks like to you. But there is something very peaceful and liberating about knowing you're building a life that you can actually afford instead of constantly trying to keep up with one that you cannot. And if your income continues to grow, perfect. That's certainly something I'm working on. Until then, there's no shame in learning how to take care of the life you have with the money you have right now. If today's conversation helped you, I've written a whole article over on my website at ThatsSoAuntSusie.com, and it is called How to Live on One Income After a Major Change. And even if you're not technically living on one income, it does help explain how to live on less of an income. And if conversations like this encourage you and help you feel a little less alone, I'd love to have you here. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next call. If you've ever had to adjust to living with less, what was the hardest part for you? Or what's something that you've learned that might help another woman who is currently going through that? Call me in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Around here, I simply share what I've lived, what I've learned, and what I hope will help somebody on their journey. And hey, if you're struggling, pull up a chair. We'll figure it out together.